Say thank you to His Excellency Canadian Ambassador, Mr. John Holmes, and his team for supporting the project, and people from Tune City Academy, Miguel de Rosario, René de Guzman, and Rose Gonzalez for this wonderful opportunity to expand Seneca work in this market. And this is also a good way to learn from each other. As you see, this is my name, and I will tell you my story. So my entire presentation is going to be, I'm going to show you a couple of examples from some other people's work, some people whose work I admire, and some people who get me inspired for years. So it will be a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of illustration, a little bit of storytelling. And I'm going to very briefly analyze each and every image. So I'm an illustrator and designer, and I'm teaching at Seneca College and Oakwood University, and I'm living in Toronto with my family. So most of my work is visual storytelling, children illustration, drawing, and comics. So thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to be in Philippines. It's my first time here. And today I will talk about how to tell a story, and I will show you the examples. Next image is I'm just going to demonstrate some of the storytelling principles. I'm not the art historian, so I'm not going to cover it from that point of view. I'm going to cover this from the point of view of someone who is involved in teaching and in industry as well. And I will just try to deconstruct it in a way that very brief analysis of what's going on. So some of the storytelling principles that we are going to see today is just going to be a visual metaphor and repetition and color and empty space manipulation, perspective, movement, and especially important is iterations and variations, and also property of material. So how are you dealing with the images, how these images are going to be rendered, what will happen within the image so people can connect to them, people can see them, people can perceive the information. So I'm more interested, when I'm talking about images, I'm more interested how some people are rendering the images and how do they communicate a certain message. And there are some things that we learn at Seneca College. So we learn how to communicate the certain information, how to connect with the audience, and also how to create something that is going to have a certain emotional response. So if your drawing or if your illustration or if your design does not have anything specific or anything unique or anything that is provoking certain kind of emotional reaction within the minds of the viewer, it means that we failed as designers and illustrators and graphic designers and animators. So it needs to have certain kind of information that is layered there so people can connect and people can perceive. Of course, by the end of this presentation, please feel free to ask whatever you want to ask, question and answers, and I'll be happy to talk to you. And then we can also talk about the workshop that is going to start on Monday. So first image that I like, and this is one of my favorite designers, is Joseph Miller Brockman. This is a pretty famous image from the history of graphic design. If you are a graphic designer, I guess you are reading the mag's history of graphic design. You have a couple of images over there, and there is a reason why Joseph Miller Brockman is inside of this encyclopedias and books, because this particular image, as you can see, it's very simple, it's very static, so there's nothing very exciting when it comes to color. But inside of this image, there is something that is going to make you think. And this is a classic example of the golden age of Swiss modernism era. And this poster demonstrates the ability of designer to achieve sound or sonic field based on a human experience of vibration, skillfully translated to 3D principles design. So you have just a little bit of type over there. Of course, Helvetica, because this guy was Swiss and he was a friend with Max Meindiger and all the great guys from the 50s and 60s in Switzerland. And also, because of this repetition, we have the feeling that there is a sound. There is no sound, actually, it's just a 2D image, but we perceive it like that because of the principles. Of course, there is a number over there, which is Beethoven's 8th Symphony. And also, this image is tilted, but this image also challenges you in your knowledge of graphic design. So first, And the foremost principle is going to be static versus dynamic. So if you tilt or lean the things within the picture frame, you are actually achieving dynamics. The moment that things are aligning with vertical and horizontal, as we are standing right now, we do have something that is more structured or more static. And this is a certain paradox in the image, because image is actually grid-based image. Everything is rectilinear, so sense of movement and rotation is there, but although it's grid-based composition with rectilinear shape, it creates some kind of visual paradox. But because he's moving across this plane, we do have a sense of movement if we are sitting over there. So it's very, very peculiar to see how this guy actually manipulates something as simple as just a black shape to achieve the sound, to achieve the phenomena when we observe this image. So inside of the image we will have a certain tone inside of our mind. Next one, of course, is Shigeo Fukuda. He's a very famous Japanese graphic designer. He's an excellent designer, and he's using a lot of storytelling that is using a metaphor, and also with this kind of metaphor on this one, he is also commenting something about the victory, but also something about self-destruction as well in civilization, something about the peace processes and what is destruction caused by the war and by the conflict. And the diagonal line over there, just two colors, very simple, but it goes inside of our mind. It's very, very memorable because there is something that is wrong. So you need to create something that is unique. You can turn the things upside down and you can manipulate reality in a very simple way. So this bullet is actually flying towards this thing, and it's not going in the opposite direction. If the bullet is flying to the direction that we expect, then this image is not going to be interesting. So storytelling is sometimes turning the world upside down. So if you're an animator, your movie should be interesting in a way that something unusual and peculiar is happening. If you do have a good story, or if you think that the story is good and there's nothing unusual in the story, then it is not going to work. So you know probably that coming to this very building, you've seen a couple of posters or examples of the flyers or anything that was presented today. But if it's not unusual, there is nothing for you to keep in mind. So just turn around and you forget about the image. Storytelling is actually creating the images that are going to stay in our minds for long, long time. Some of the images inside of my mind are perceived many, many, many years ago. I'm pretty sure that all of us today, we have some images inside of our minds that are all the way from the childhood. Some, I guess, children books or some of the drawings. This is a beautiful example of principle of duality, of dualism, and also principle of reverse similarity and dissimilarity and positive and negative. And this is also something that I like a lot because this image is ambiguous. So you can't say a lot of things about this one to be sure. So we don't know actually whether we are supposed to look at the black part of the image or the white part of the image. There is a very subtle transition between the man's leg and a female's leg over there. And obviously this is a comment about the relationship between the opposite, the men and the women. This one is also really, really important image and done by Milton Glaser. And this is a poster for this guy. So this is actually, he achieved a strong sense of movement and it reflects the idea and creativity that boils in the mind of this, I believe you know this guy, so he's a Nobel Prize winner. And the times, they're changing. The next one is Art Guapel. He's a Dutch graphic designer and illustrator. And this thing looks very simple, but it's very hard to achieve this kind of simplicity. And this is a combination of things that are not transferred from the reality. So sometimes you create some kind of a hybrid image, or sometimes you combine the things that are having the opposite meanings, and the entire narrative goes into very unexpected directions. So this one is also a juxtaposition, so two things that are being seen or placed close together with contrasting effect. Obviously something, some kind of very subtle comment about the animals and about the human activities and environment and the pollution and so on. I think it's just fantastic. This is also a fantastic image, and this is also playing on the opposite, because as humans we are actually binary beings, so we are experiencing pluses and minuses on a daily basis. So we have the day and the night, brightness and darkness, hot and warm, tall and small, yin and yang, true and lie, men and women, good guys, bad guys. So when you are trying to achieve some kind of storytelling, please think about the opposites. Think about what will create the tension, whether this is going to be something huge and something small, or something black or something white. In all the movies and most of the books that you have ever read, there should be some kind of a good guy or a bad guy, or some kind of a opposition. It might be really subtle, just with the emotions. It might be the love and hate. But this kind of a tension inside of this relation between the things are going to create some kind of a very interesting story.